Hey, Andrew, welcome to the podcast. We're super excited to have you for this interview. I want to give you big congratulations. I hear that you're going to be attending UAB this fall, so that's awesome. Way to go. Um, and so, right now, I'd just love if you could share your story with us and sort of take us along on your journey, because so many students are probably where you were a couple years ago. I would like to see, that there is light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing.
Gotcha. And so what I just kind of planned on doing was starting from the get-go, briefly, but kind of giving enough of a backstory of what my initial thoughts were that made me a dentist. Of course, I didn't go from thinking about it to, oh, I'm sold on it overnight. It was a process, but thought about sharing some of those initial thoughts and, like I said, the real ones. um, Anyways, so I was going to kind of briefly walk through that and kind of talk about what it was that kind of made me even think about dentistry in the first place and
Okay.
some of those initial steps I thought, and then I might briefly kind of share about how those were my initial feelings, but I might kind of hint at that the journey kind of brought on the journey itself of getting into schools where it really strengthened. And then info of how I was somebody who thought I'd go straight into dental school and
Mm-hmm.
thought I would, graduate and start in July. And that didn't happen. Kind of go through what you talked about, just those struggles, internally and externally. Externally being I had no clue how to fill out an application the right way. I was getting the DAT score correct, all those, but internally at the same time going, hey, are you even smart enough to get in? Like, what if I wasted all that time doing a biology and chemistry degree in undergrad and I don't want to be a biologist?
Oh, that's so real, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
talk about those a little bit. Um, and then kind of talk about the moment in time that I told you about before where got my DAT score higher and I thought that was going to solve all my problems, but then I still didn't get an interview and kind of that point of going, all right, something's got to give. I have to figure something out. And then kind of briefly speak about how I just stumbled upon your class. It was literally almost by chance. And just talk about how there was that realization once that I started, hearing your webinars and saw that my data, there's kind of that realization that you can't really like just kind of slide your way into dental school. It takes a lot of intentionality and hard work. Um, and so that's, kind of was my epiphany point, I guess you could say. And then going to just briefly talk about what we put into plan then, reworking the application, really shadowing people with a purpose, using those volunteer hours to go and volunteer places that were not only going to look good on my application, but now looking back have equipped me to, well, I feel, and I've talked to a few dentists and they're like, with the experience you've had in that clinic, like you're going to be so far ahead of some of your classmates going into dental school. And
That
so,
clinic thing is nuts. That's so amazing that you're there. Holy
mhm. Yeah, I worked my last day there last week, and so I'm officially
cow.
out now. But it's
What?
great. So
Wow.
I told them they'd have me till April, but now it's looking for an apartment, relocating, getting married in May, and all
You're
that.
getting married this May?
Yeah, the
In
19th.
a minute? How long were you engaged for?
Got engaged in August. Um,
It was that long ago?
yeah.
Holy cow.
Seems
I
like
thought you got
yesterday.
engaged like 3 months ago. Is that crazy?
It is. But,
That's so exciting. Oh,
but
I'm so happy for you guys.
it is.
Okay.
But anyways, I'll kind of, and even then, how we did all that, got my interview, but then it still took me a second to get into school. And there was even those times, from the time we talked in December till, January, February came, I didn't think I was going to get in. And there's still those points where I was like, what in the world? And so I'll kind of mention that and then talk about how I got in and what I believe now is the right timing. Given my personal circumstances, I'm not going to go into that and give everyone my life story. But then what I really want to talk about at the end is kind of what the whole journey and the process did for me and how it changed me in some ways,
Okay.
how it matured me and the things that I learned from it, one of the things I really mentioned earlier, that I learned being in proximity around the things that I want to do and with people that are doing those things, it really allowed me to develop like a genuine love and appreciation for doing dentistry and serving people that way, not in the, kind of superficial surface level way we all put on our application that we won't serve the underserved. But I got to see like the real, I would call it the nitty gritty of dental work and how like that really can affect people on a day-to-day basis. And so that, along with the other, just an extra year or two to grow up a little bit, learn some life lessons. I got a chance to get some working experience in some business type settings, which I feel like is going to benefit me down the road if I want to run a practice. And so really kind of want to talk about that for a second, especially like I said, on how the process allowed me, because I couldn't just waltz my way into dental school and I really had to do the hard work. That hard work really gave me an appreciation and a love for doing dentistry. That before I thought it was going to be a cool career choice and make good money, work Monday through Thursday, and those are also benefits, of course. But now I really see it in a new light because of the process I had to go through. I really had to get down in the trenches with dentistry in a sense. And so that's kind of the points that I had written down.
I love it. The
So
only
you
thing that I
or
would,
if there's anything.
oh wait, I can't hear you. Oh, it got oh, that's better now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. The only thing that I would add in is just to drop more for the transformation. You know how you're saying like nitty gritty, like
Mm-hmm.
with like with your boys and girls club, like with your people, how like it gave you like a deeper appreciation or like a closer connection, kind of with the people you want to serve, even once you're a dentist, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. That makes
Yeah,
sense?
for sure.
All right, you ready? We are at the time for me. Cool. And I can mark down what time it is. All right, whatever. All right. So, welcome to the podcast. Today we have a really awesome episode, and I am so excited for you guys to have the opportunity for us to have this conversation with Andrew Klingen. Andrew Klingen is actually going to be starting UAB, in a couple of months from now, and that's awesome. He's going to his dream dental school, and I just thought it would be awesome if he could share with you guys part of his journey. So, welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me on. This is really cool. Actually, my first podcast I've ever done, so I feel like I've kind of hit the big time now.
We're
But
so
just
excited to have you.
yeah, for sure. So I guess just where we would start is what in the world made me want to be a dentist. And I would say, contrary to what you sometimes feel you have to put on an application or talk to somebody when you're shadowing, for me, I noticed and I was attracted to dentistry at a very young age when I was a senior in high school. And I thought it was cool because I have a doctor in front of my name and I might would make a good income one day, all those stereotypical things that people think of dentists. But really, as I went through this journey of getting into school, which was not an easy journey, and it took a few years, um, it really allowed me to see dentistry in a new light. And I'll share more on that later in the interview. But it really allowed me to have appreciation for using dentistry to help people in the world and using it as a profession.
That's awesome. It's awesome that you started so early, and what you're saying about wanting to get the doctor in front of your name. It really resonates with a lot of people. I know that was a big thing for Dr. Steinberg, to be the doctor before the Steinberg. So if we sort of let's go back there. Once you started down the route to actually, getting ready to apply, what did that part of the journey look like? What were some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing about me, I'm about as type A can be. And I think a lot of people who are applying to dental school are the same way. So I'm a high achiever. And so in my mind, I always thought, hey, I'll graduate undergrad in 4 years or less and get that diploma in May and start dental school in July. And I'll be pulling teeth by the time I'm like 26 years old and it'll be great. But that's not what happened to me. I went through and I had biology as a major in my undergrad, minored in chemistry, like a lot of people. Didn't go to a big school. So there wasn't a degree specifically for pre-dental or anything like that. I just had a concentration in pre-health. Didn't have any kind of pre-dental club at my school. I actually went to my spring orientation at UAB 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to a student there, and they told me, they said, we think you're actually the first person from Jacksonville State who's ever come to UAB, at least in recent years. And
That's
so I say that to say I had no type of, I had mentors in my life in the form of dentists who have already gone to school, but I had nobody who was a student who had gone through this process a few years before myself telling me, hey, here's what you should be doing and all that stuff. And so the result of that was I just thought, I could get my A's and B's in undergrad and do pretty well, and then I could kind of slide my way into dental school and all be good. And that wasn't the case, because I had no clue what I was doing on that application the first time around. My DAT, I had no clue how to study for it, and the results showed. So the stats at first weren't stellar. The application, you probably would not want to read. That personal statement was horrendous, to put it nicely. And so, starting off, I didn't know what I didn't know really.
Mhm.
And it took me a while to kind of figure that out.
Okay, so you do that first application attempt, but we know that you get in, so you didn't give up. So
Mm-hmm.
what happened next?
So applied the first time, and to be honest, I tell people I really had no business applying then because I didn't have my ducks in a row. But took the DAT and made a pretty good score. It was a 17. I thought for
Okay.
the first time, that's okay. Wanted to bump it up a little bit, and took it again a few months later and made 17 again. And I
Okay.
had been told that even though that's not the worst score in the world, that I probably would never get into UAB with that score personally. And so I knew I had to, I graduated the following May and knew I needed to get that DAT taken care of first. And so I went back later that fall, made a higher score, bumped it up a few points to a
How'd you
score. Excuse me.
how'd you do then? How'd you do that next round?
So I came out with a 20 that time, which
Nice.
still, yeah, it was still nothing that's, making people's jaws drop, but it was about the average that got into UAB. And some other schools I was playing well. So I thought that was just going to unlock the whole thing for me. Well, it didn't. I actually had fall, it was in November, so the application was complete. It was super late in the application cycle. And so I
Andrew,
didn't get in.
on my
Any,
end, you broke up just a little bit. Do you mind to say that one more time?
sure, where do you need me to start again?
From you got the 20 DAT, you just said, and you thought it was going to open doors.
Yeah. So I thought it was going to, and it didn't. I didn't even get an interview. And that score came in late in November is when I took the DAT. So my application technically wasn't complete until very late in the cycle. When schools are starting to look at applications and give interviews in July sometimes these days. It was super late. So that kind of came the point where I was like, okay, something's got to give. Um, what I'm doing is not working. And at that same time, we're talking about this process, in a brief, conversation, but this was drawn. At this point, we're over a year into this process. And so I'm already having these thoughts of like, am I even smart enough? Am I cut out for dental school? Like, I could do it, but like, people know I want to be a dentist and they ask me about my stupid test every time I see them. And these thoughts were already starting to creep in my head, but did what I could, kind of just keep those at bay for the time being. And so kind of focus on what I could control. And so what I knew was something had to change. I
Thought,
got the DAT
those
score.
thoughts of, am I smart enough? Can I even do this? Even when you have the 20 they're so sort of pervasive with students. Like it's such a bummer, like to have them going through your head.
Oh, for sure, especially when you're a part of like 10 different Facebook groups. And, it feels like every day somebody's posting a picture of their 23 on their DAT. And, it makes you feel like you're the only one who isn't making that outrageous score when the fact
Mhm.
is most people are kind of in the same boat as you are a lot of times.
Exactly. Exactly.
When you're going at it by yourself, you don't really realize that until you get on the other side. But I wish I had known back when I was in the middle of that I wasn't some anomaly. I wasn't somebody who wasn't smart enough to get in. I just, I was kind of by myself in it and didn't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so then what happens? You get the 20, you
So I
apply.
get,
Then what
yeah.
happens next? You get the 20, apply, it doesn't go the way you want it to go,
Mhm.
and then what? We're sort of at this wall.
So now it's kind of, I'm going, it's at the, back to the drawing board. What do I do?
Okay.
Um, and like I said, I was in, like any student who applies to dental school these days, I was in like 5 different Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of this whole, like, what am I going to do to change this whole situation? I was in your Facebook group, didn't know who you were, didn't know anything. I think it just had something to do with dental school application planning. So I joined it. And I see this lady named Sara is giving a webinar that night on, I couldn't even tell you what the subject was anymore. We'll call it how to rock a personal statement. I'm not even sure.
Probably a personal statement webinar.
So I was like, well, I'm not doing anything tonight. I'll sign on and just hear what's going on. So I signed on that night, listened to what you had to say. It was all making sense. And that was, I don't know if you remember, the first time you launched and announced your smart applicant class.
Yep. Yeah,
And
I
so
remember.
it was all super quick. You did it, you listed, what it would give us, what the price would be. And I'm like, but you're like, hey, there's only so many spots, so don't wait on this. So I was kind of like, okay, this is the first time I've ever listened to this lady. Like, do I trust her and go all in with this? What do I do? And I was like, well, you have to do something because what you're doing is not working. Um, so I signed up.
Wow.
So
What an amazing journey. That was
for,
probably a year ago, right? When we first launched our first course.
yeah, I guess it was probably like February, March of 2018, somewhere in there.
Wow. It's more than a year ago. It's incredible.
So that's when we kind of got to work and we started learning, covering things, how to write application blurbs, which I didn't even know was a thing, like it doesn't even matter. How to write a personal statement that made the interview committee want to keep reading it, how to prepare for an interview, all those things. And so we just got to work. I remember you talking about shadowing and volunteering with a purpose. I had shadowed, but it had been one person, never really put a lot of thought into it, to volunteer in the same way. And so you really challenged me to think critically about how I was spending my volunteer time and my shadowing time. Um, and one thing that led to was me getting super involved at my local Boys and Girls Club with kids there and just spending time building relationships with them for a while. But what that allowed me to do later on was I went to a local dentist and had them donate some little gift bags with toothbrushes and just different oral hygiene products for these kids. And we just had a little oral health day. It wasn't long. Kids don't have a long attention span these days. It was probably 15 minutes, but they thought the world that they got some toothbrushes and some toothpaste and things like that.
I want
The
you to
other,
know your story with the Boys and Girls Club and your experience there has inspired so many other pre-dental students all over the country that have connected with us through the Smart Applicant, that have seen your article, that are trying to do the same thing in their community. So,
it
yeah.
was, it was honestly, it consisted of just playing basketball with the kids. But when you build relationships with people, over a period of time, it makes them want to listen to you later down the road. I wasn't some person just showing up with a message to, you know, shove down their throats. I was somebody that they looked up to at that point, an older kid. They called me Coach Andrew, which I don't understand why. I guess the older male figures to coach. Um, but it was super cool. And then honestly, that that didn't lead into, but the other volunteer experience that I picked up was there's a nonprofit in my area called Interfaith Ministries, and they run a dental clinic that's free of charge to people who are in need or underserved or can't afford dental care in our area. And so I got hooked up with going there to volunteer. About the time I went there to start volunteer, the person who was coordinating that whole setup in that clinic was leaving.
Wow.
So I was like, and I got a call from the director of the nonprofit like 2 weeks later, and they're like, hey, we know you're trying to get into dental school, you're investing in this. Would you run our clinic until that time? And I was like, okay, sounds cool. I'd been to the clinic a few times, and it was, I'd got my first assisting experience there. I'll never forget the first time he was suturing after he pulled an extraction, and he said, Andrew, cut the I'm about to say the wires, cut the sutures. And I was like, wow, I can put a sharp instrument in someone's mouth, like what's going on? Which was cool. But then, so they hired me as the coordinator. I show up to start. What they do is they triage people on Wednesdays and they do clinics and Fridays and send people to private offices in between. And when I show up to do that, I took the job and had never done the triage part. I show up to do that. And it's just people coming in and going, hey, I got this problem, this problem. Can you check this out? And all of a sudden, I went from someone who's just volunteering at this clinic to the receptionist, um, almost a dental assistant, making sure, almost like an office manager, making sure the clinic was stocked and supplied and all those things. And it was crazy, but it allowed me to learn so much about dentistry, and it allowed me to see so many different types of people and cases. And more than anything, it gave me I don't know what I'll do when I graduate one day, if I'll own an office or whatever, but I know probably at one point I'll have a receptionist one day. And I don't know who that person is yet, but I'm already super grateful for them because I've had to I was not a fan. But yeah, so that was really cool. That along with the Boys and Girls Club really gave me some experiences that stood out on my application. And so,
Isn't it amazing? I think it was such a special opportunity that you got to wear so many hats before going into dental school. We're going to have to wear all of those hats again, but being able to see it beforehand, and I just feel like in your situation, once you kind of found where you wanted to go and who you wanted to help, it was almost like the entire like universe came together, like put these sort of golden opportunities in front of you. Like once you like
mhm.
your path it's an incredible story. Incredible.
Oh.
You're showing up to volunteer and 10 minutes later you're running the clinic. Like it's unbelievable. I remember when you told me the first time, I was like, this is incredible. Like this is an incredible opportunity to have as a pre-dent.
Oh, for sure. And I'll hit more on this later, but at the end, but definitely looking back, the things fell in line at the right time, and different people call that different things. But I was very fortunate for that to happen. Like I said, we'll hit at that later. But got busy doing that, and I remember the whole time too. I was working a pretty much 40-hour a week job. I'm not one to kind of during gap years just sit around and not do anything. So I had a 9 to 5 job pretty much. I was thankful that it was very flexible, so I could go to the clinics on Wednesday morning and do clinics on Fridays and things like that. But I remember, so we did all that. We applied early in the summer, and then one day in July I was at work and my phone rang, and I looked down and it says UAB, School of Dentistry. And I knew that they were inviting me to an interview, but I was just shocked because, first of all, my application had been complete for like 3 weeks, maybe at that point. But
Wow.
I picked it up. It was them. They were saying, "Hey, we'd like to invite you to an interview in August." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll be there. Just tell me when. I'll clear everything out on my schedule." They're like, "Is August such and such okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I can make it work."
I'll make any day work.
I've only been waiting on this for like 2 years. Yeah, I'll be there. Uh, So that was a huge, the reason I share that too, that was a huge milestone for me because that was the first time in over 2 years of this journey that I saw any type of progress, really, like tangible progress. I've worked and worked and worked, and I made higher on my DAT that last time, but I never really saw any kind of reward or any fruit of that labor. And so that was the first taste of it. And I had to kind of sit down. I was like, wow, this stuff might actually work. Like, we may be onto something here.
Wow.
Yeah, so ended up going and interviewing. I thought it went great, like fantastic. The only hard part was it was early August. I was told that we were like one of the first in-state groups to interview there. And so I went and it's like, okay, I need to find out. And then I remember sitting in my chair the next morning drinking my coffee before I headed to work, and I was like, I gotta wait 4 months before I know. And so
Wow.
I like this feeling of like you're super excited for a while because you think about it every single day. And so it just became a waiting game at that point. Um, and so then December rolled around.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and go into all of this, I guess. December rolled around, I believe this year, like the first Monday, December was on the 3rd. And I could hardly go to bed the night before I was so pumped because I was so sure that I went in there, I brought the interview. I've been told my whole life, Andrew, you know, you're a great people person. You're super likable. If you just get an interview, you'll get in. Like, I got told that by dentists over and over. So in my mind, I'm like, all I gotta do is just go in there and like pronounce my words correctly and say somewhat the right thing, and it's gonna be great. And so I was convinced I was gonna get a call. UAB calls people that morning. And also, it is worth mentioning in the meantime, I did score an interview to one other school, and went and interviewed there as well in November. Um,
That was at
the
right?
school's nice, but I did leave going, okay, I can see myself here, but it also kind of like I knew for sure, like, yeah, UAB is definitely my first choice because they tell you this when you go to interviews in industry, like you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and seeing what their school has to offer and how you could fit in there is a very important part. Well, one day I'm at work doing my thing and my phone rings, and typically when I'm at work, I don't even have my phone on me. I just
Mm-hmm.
happened this day, and I looked down my phone, and it had the dean of admissions name on the caller ID. And
Wow.
as coworkers around, they said that, you know, it looked like I'd seen a ghost. There was such a shocked look on my face. I was like, wow. Because as soon as I saw the name, I knew exactly what it was. So I picked up the phone, and it was the dean of admissions from UAB, and he was calling to
Wow.
tell me that I had been accepted into the incoming class.
Holy cow.
Shock doesn't even begin to describe how I felt, Sarah, because excuse me, how I felt. Because I just convinced myself and talked myself out of it. And then all of a sudden, I went from going, what am I going to do for a job to you start dental school in July. This is what you've been going for years, and it's finally happening. I called my fiance, called my family. They were all more excited than I was at first. Like for me, the excitement didn't even set in until like the next morning when I woke up. But then I was kind of like, this happened. Like it's possible. Someone who isn't, I wasn't a bad applicant. I wasn't an outstanding applicant. I think I was just an average applicant. Like they can actually do this and get into a school who's pretty competitive to get into. UAB is the only school in the state of Alabama where I live, and so it's just at that moment it's like everything had paid off, and it's hard to describe that feeling. Don't want to be cliche about it, but it really is. Especially when, like I said, when you realize like you can't just slide your way into dental school, you can't finesse your way into dental school. Like all that hard work and just day after day getting up and putting in the work to make it happen pays off. It's like wow, you don't really even know how to begin to describe the way you're feeling.
Wow. That is amazing story. So, are you ready to start dental school now? Who are you today? Are you the same guy
Uh,
as 2 years ago, 4 years ago?
So definitely I'm ready to start dental school, but I'm nowhere near ready to start dental school. I'm having to apply for loans right now. Just got an apartment lined up. I'm having to collect teeth. The list is super long, but I'm grateful to have a list to be working on. As far as like who I am now versus then, completely different. This whole story of mine, it started in the summer of 2016, I guess. Today we're in April of 2019. And I just kind of look back at what this whole journey did to me the past almost 3 years. And I look at how it's, matured me and I've grown up in that standpoint in a lot of different ways. I've learned that like when you really want to do something, there's no just like doing the bare minimum to pull it off. You have to go all in and try to figure it out. I've been able to get lots of more life experience working and things like that's been great. But more than anything, I think what was cool is that this because I wasn't able just to waltz my way into dental school. The journey that I had to go on and getting rejected and working harder and then getting rejected and finding more ways to spend time around dentistry in the right settings with the right people. It allowed me to see dentistry in a very real way. I talked about at the beginning of the interview that how we all start wanting to be a dentist because we want the doctor in front of our name
Yeah.
and we want to have a nice paycheck one day and work Monday through Thursday, which are not bad things. And then, but we go on an application and we feel like, we have to lie and go, hey, yeah, I want to move to a third world country and give dental work away for free. And, for me, that was more painful than anything because I felt like I couldn't be fully transparent. But what was cool was the more time I spent time around dentistry, and around people who were doing good things with dentistry, the more I developed a love for dentistry And the more that I developed like this awareness that like you can use dentistry to really serve people. Okay, it doesn't have to be you're giving away dental work for free, but you can really use this as a tool and a gift and a craft to be able to change students. And so it just allows you to really fall in love with dentistry in a way that nobody could as a freshman in college, I feel like. And you know, I come from a ordinary family. Nobody in my family was a dentist. I didn't grow up around them. I just thought it was cool. Started the journey, you know, committed myself to learning about it and to spending time around it. And I can't stress that enough. Just being in proximity to people who are doing what you're wanting to do, the right people who are doing what you want to do. It went a long way into changing me into the kind of person who wants to invest in others and wants to be that type of dentist one day, and even that type of, you know, husband and father and person in the community. And so to kind of look back at this whole journey, um, you know, part of me feels like I should already be in dental school. You know, like I said, the achiever person in me. But looking back, seeing how this whole process changed me and it shaped me and it molded me. You know, I wouldn't have written it this way, but now I wouldn't go back and erase anything either, because it's just it has set me up to go into, you know, the next 4 years will be very difficult. I know that. I've been told that by students repeatedly, but I feel like the experience, having to work so hard to get here, and the experience that I gained, and the people I was able to spend time around as far as dentists doing work, but then also these people who need dental work, from any socioeconomic kind of scale, it's allowed me to like I'm ready to go right now. Like I know the first 2 years at UAB was very, very heavy on the academic side, but I feel like I'm just ready to grab a drill and go to work right now. And I credit a lot of that to the fact that I had to work to get here, and that, you know, there's a process to it, and that I learned a lot and saw a lot and was around a lot of things during that time that turned me into the person I am now with the outlook that I have now.
That is an awesome story, Andrew. Thank you so much for sharing with us your journey through dental school, and getting real with us. It's really inspiring to hear the work that you were able to do, um, has been recognized. You were published. Your work was published in ASDA, recognizing the good work that you were doing with the Boys and Girls Club, and that's really phenomenal. And I'm just really excited for your journey and to see the great work that you do as a dentist, you know, making this world a better place. So thank you very much for coming on our podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for listening. I know I'm a little long-winded at times, so thanks for sticking with me. And thanks to you, Sarah, for just investing in me and being willing to respond to a text or an email when I was working on something and showing me, you know, the right things that I needed to do. I look back at this journey, and there's a lot of people that I can attribute this success to. You know, my dentist has helped me a ton. My family's helped me a ton, but you're also one of those people. And so I got to thank you as well. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for making such an awesome impact. Really having such an awesome impact on your community and also on inspiring other pre-dentals to follow in your footsteps. So thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been a really phenomenal interview with Andrew, who is going to be starting at UAB Dental this upcoming year. So have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah. You too.